is a presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Minnesota.
It's a beautiful day for baseball, and better yet, it's the perfect day to celebrate the #1 woman in everyone's life. Pink bats, pink jerseys, and pink cleats, all in honor of the women we can't live without. On this Mother's Day, the Twins look to Tyler Duffey to recreate the magic he brought to this team a year ago as he makes his third start of the 2016 season. Meanwhile, the gauntlet of Sox pitchers continues with Jose Quintana, who hopes to win his 4th consecutive decision while allowing just 1 earned run in his past 3 starts. Welcome, everyone, to the sunny south side of Chicago. I'm Audra Martin. To all the mothers out there, thank you so much for joining us. We hope you're having a spectacular Mother's Day so far. When the Minnesota Twins left spring training with a clean bill of health, it was a very good sign. But unfortunately, now they are facing a very aggressive injury bug just 5 weeks into the season. Last night, a foul tip to the mask and a fastball to the knee added Kurt Suzuki and Byung-Ho Park to the list. But earlier today, manager Paul Molitor gave an overall promising update on the health of his team.
Park's doing better. He's good to play. He's sore. There's no risk of playing. I think probably running around and being out there on defense is probably going to be the best thing for him to keep him moving around. Kurt's feeling better. He took it like we talked about last night. It was a direct hit, and he's got some stiffness in his neck and some things, but. He'll be available if we need to go there. And, the other guys are still kind of not quite ready. Dozier, hopefully tomorrow, we'll give him a chance to get out there early. Joe, not surprisingly, didn't get an off day, and so I'm giving him another one today. I think he can use it. So we'll go with what we have and see how it plays out.
Coming up, his manager calls him a bulldog. Can that mentality push Tyler Duffey to his first win of the season? Dick Bramer and Jack Morris have that next.
Twins baseball on Fox Sports North is presented by Menards. Save big money at Menards on all your home improvement needs. By Dodge. Visit Dodge.com or your local dealer today. And by Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, for the everyday competitor in all of us.
Obviously, you have to want to win to be successful, but as soon as you start putting more pressure than is needed, that's when guys start pressing a little bit and things like that, which I don't think anyone's pressing. I think it's just, I mean, we've got guys hitting balls hard right at people, you know, got balls are just dropping in left and right. I mean, it's just been a little rough stretch, I mean, from what I can tell, and I think it's one of those things, once it turns around, it'll be good to go from there, but we're just waiting on that little bit of a turn.
The Twins are hoping that despite his relative inexperience, Tyler Duffey can step up, give the Twins a good start, something that's been in very short supply on this road trip. And the Twins are hoping for bookend wins on this otherwise disappointing road trip. Dick Bramer, Jack Morris for the series and road trip finale, and that's kind of been Tyler Duffey's history. Last year as a rookie, he stepped up, pitched in some awfully big ball games for the Twins, and more often than not pitched very well.
I like the look in his eye. He's a guy that wants the ball, and he's excited about this opportunity to pitch another Major League game. First one here at U.S. Cellular. He's got those 4 pitches, or 3 pitches, I should say. 2-seam fastball that really runs well. The 4-seamer is his glove side pitch with a fastball. He changes speeds on both his slider and his curveball, and he's still working on the changeup, even though here he is in the big leagues. Tyler Duffey is a guy that's looking forward to this opportunity.
Twins were undermanned a little bit in the first game of this road trip, but they beat Dallas Keuchel and the Astros. They hope to end the road trip with a win here today.
Happy Mother's Day for everyone, every mother in the world. Very special day, especially mine.
Happy Mother's Day, Mom. I love you, and thank you for everything you've done for me. I wouldn't be where I am without you.
Want to wish my grandmother, my mother, and my wife Happy Mother's Day.
Hi, Mom. Happy Mother's Day. You know, love you.
Hey, Mom. Just want to tell you Happy Mother's Day. I love you.
Happy Mother's Day, Mom. I love you so much.
Happy Mother's Day to my wife with our new 7-month-old daughter. You've done a great job, and she's so lucky to have you. Love you guys.
Hi, Mom. I know you're watching the game today, so I want to say I love you. Happy Mother's Day, and I will see you soon.
Yes, of course, Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. And for the fathers and the children, make sure that the mom feels very special today. Along with Audra Martin, Jack Morris, Dick Bramer here on the south side of Chicago, where the Twins are going to try to win for the first time against the White Sox with this Menards batting order. Eduardo Nunez leading off. Jorge Polanco batting second. Brian Dozier not quite ready to rejoin the lineup. Then Miguel Sano, Trevor Plouffe, Young-Ho Park, Oswaldo Arcia, Darren Mastroianni, Juan Centeno, and Eddie Rosario.
They will be facing the left-hander Jose Quintana. He's making his 7th start of the year. He's won 3 consecutive decisions. That's the first time in his career, looking for the 4th in a row, and a great ERA and win-loss record here this year at U.S. Cellular Field.
Nunez to lead things off. And there is strike 1. Pat Hoberg is calling balls and strikes with the pink mask. Brian Knight, Todd Tishner, and Bill Miller, the base umps. Pink, the color of choice. There's a hot ground ball past a diving Frazier. And Nunez stumbles around first. He'll still get second base with a leadoff double.
Maybe that's a sign of good things to come. Eduardo drills that ball past Frazier down the line. And the Twins have the first chance to score a run.
Nunez, of all people, leading the team in slugging percentage. He's got an OPS of .907 coming into the game.
Yeah, he gets a fastball right over the middle of the plate, and he's ready for it. Not much Frazier could do there, diving to his right.
That'll bring up Jorge Polanco. He doubled in the ball game last night. A couple of hits in 10 at bats. And down and away, ball 1.
I was kind of mesmerized by the mask of the umpire.
Yeah.
I started talking and they showed it on the screen here, and I'm going, wow, I've never seen that.
And you don't care as long as there are holes in the mask, right? So we can see balls and strikes. Down and in, 2-0. Polanco playing at second base. Dozier still recovering from a strained hamstring. The hope is he'll be on the field in the starting lineup tomorrow night in the homestand opener with the Orioles. Checked his swing, took strike 2 and 1. We've seen Polanco off and on over the last now 3 seasons, and every time we see him, he looks stronger, more muscular. Tom Bernansky says that he projects for being a 8 to 10 home run a year guy. Hoping to get an RBI single here in the first inning. Foul back 2-2.
I think he just said a word that a lot of Twins fans are having a tough time swallowing right now, and that's projects.
Yeah.
You know, at this point, they want to see productivity.
In all 10 positions, pitcher and the 9 position players, or the 9 people in the batter's order, I should say, the White Sox have the advantage as you look at the Northland Ford defense. So the White Sox with a decided advantage in experience here this afternoon. And now up and away, 3-2. Only 5 of the 10 players starting for the Twins here today were on the opening day roster. Polanco, of course, was not. Sano was. 3-2. Twins got a couple of first inning runs against Chris Sale yesterday. They'd like to do some damage against Quintana here today. Checked his swing and took ball 4. So a promising start in last night's game. The Twins got their 2 runs and really didn't start a rally at all until after the second out. Now Quintana will face Sano with 2 men aboard.
Paul Molitor addressed everyone today about the injury update and the fact that the Twins do have a lot of guys banged up. Joe Mauer needing the day off. But that creates opportunity, and I think it's time for some of these guys who are getting their chance to jump all over that opportunity. Miguel Sano been in a little bit of a home run slump. It'd be awesome to see him unload here.
Thank you for saying that, because I felt that way for the last couple of weeks, that amid all the criticism, and when you are 8-22, everyone, including the TV announcers, deserve criticism. But it really is up to the players to take advantage of the opportunity that's been put in front of them. Ball lashed to center field, and that's caught. And Nunez will be doubled off second base. Sano hit it right on the screws, and Nunez took off for third, 2 down. Just
little things like that.
That's not even
just
a
keep
little
saying
thing.
it. Yeah, you're taught at all levels to make sure the ball lands. You know, there's nobody out. The game is just starting. Why give away an out that you don't need to? And the Twins just gave away an out.
So 2 away, runner at first, and now Trevor Plouffe. Sano hit the ball too hard, I guess, if there is such a thing. It looked like a hit when it left home plate, and then you realize how strong he is, and the line drives and fly balls all carry out farther than maybe a normal person. Plouffe lifting one foul.
Trevor has some fairly good numbers against Quintana.
Twins facing Quintana for the second time.
Hitting .318, 7 for 22 against Jose.
0-2. Joe Mauer and Brian Dozier are the only Twins who have homered against Quintana, and neither one is in the starting lineup. 2 strikes to Plouffe. Plouffe buckles as he swings through strike 3. Something's wrong with Trevor Plouffe, and the Twins come up empty-handed in the first. Tyler Duffy will take the mound in the bottom. Bottom of the first inning, Dave Trumer, the lead trainer for the Twins, Paul Molitor, talking with Trevor Plouffe about what happened on strike 3.
Well, let's look at the swing, and you could see that Trevor might have hurt that side again. You know, it's a little tender, I believe. He came back wanting to get back into this lineup and help his team, but might have re-aggravated it there. We don't know. We're going to have to wait and find out, but it was enough worry for the trainer and Paul to go out there and talk to him about it.
Fastball called strike 1 to Adam Eaton. Jimmy Rollins and Jose Abreu will follow.
I'm just excited to watch Tyler Duffy today, to watch his demeanor out there. The young guy getting a chance, and I think he's one of the young guys that really wants to take this opportunity. He knows the difference between big leagues and the minor leagues. He's been back and forth, and I think once you get a good taste of the big leagues, there's no reason to ever want to play in the minor leagues again.
1-1 to Eaton. Poke to left. Rosario tracking it toward the line, makes a running catch in fair territory for the first out. Sanford Health injury report. Twins banged up with the starting shortstop on the disabled list. He hurt that here Friday. The closer, one of the starting pitchers on the disabled list. Sure doesn't look like Glenn Perkins is going to get back anytime soon. Just now starting to lightly throw a baseball around. Kyle Gibson, the hope is, will get on the mound here sometime in the coming week. Young Ho Park had to leave the ball game yesterday after being hit by a pitch in the knee. Paul Molitor starting him at first base with the thought that staying on the field and exercising that leg The right leg might keep it loose throughout the game, so he's making the start at first base. 1 strike to Jimmy Rollins, and now 2 strikes. You know, the moves that have been made, some out of necessity, some by choice, I think a clear indication that Terry Ryan, the general manager, and the manager too, are looking at players now and trying to decide whether they are part of the problem or part of the solution. Rollins strikes out. Duffy gets a quick strikeout for out number 2. Bernard's batting order for the White Sox, with Eaton having been retired. Rollins striking out on 3 pitches. Then Abreu, Frazier, Cabrera, LAWRIE, Garcia, Navarro, and Jackson. And Jack, I don't know that that's not the best attitude for Twins fans to have too. As you watch these games, if you go to Target Field, you listen to them on the radio, and it can cause a lot of debate, of course, but you mentioned Tyler Duffy. Is he part of the problem, or can he potentially be part of the solution? And if he is part of the solution down the road, how best to handle him?
I believe he's part of the solution. I'm a fan because of what I see in his heart and his eyes. And that's something that doesn't equate to numbers. But he has a 1-2-3 inning. The team had an opportunity to score, and he's getting them right back in the dugout to do it again.
As we head into the second inning with an 8-22 record, Paul Molitor knows the questions about staying positive are going to come on a regular basis. Today his message was simple, as in keeping things simple. He wants his guys to go back to the basics. He stressed taking things pitch by pitch, out by out, not overthinking things, because when you start to dwell on that record or overthink things, that becomes your own worst enemy. So for Paul Molitor, he knows that some people might not agree, but he still finds comfort in the fact that there's 130 games left. He's been through some ups and downs before. You just have to have faith that an upswing is right around the corner. He said, hopefully that starts today. Guys.
Well, thank you, Audra. And of course, central to that upswing, if it happens, will be better starting pitching. Twins coming into this game with a 4-game losing streak and a total of 13 innings pitched in the 4 games by the 4 starters. 2 strikes to Park. Just think of that. I mean, obviously, visiting team, 4 losses, 32 innings pitched, and only 13 of them pitched by the starters.
Well, that equates to not a very good week, that's for sure.
Check swing.
But what Audra got there from Paul, and it's so simplistic, but it's so real. That's what baseball is. It is pitch by pitch. You've got to think every pitch. You've got to react to every pitch. You've got to throw the right pitch. You've got to hit a pitch. Everything is one throw at a time from the mound.
Grounded toward the hole. Rollins backhand. Good throw across the diamond to Abreu, and Parks retired, 1 down.
Jose Quintana has been very good at pitch by pitch, that's for sure. You can see his record at 4-1, very good ERA, even better here at home. He's 2-0 with a .60 ERA this year at home. And I've been told by people on the other side wearing the Sox uniform that they feel he's one of the most underrated pitchers in the game, that a lot of no decisions in his career, but he could be an 18 to 20 game winner for many years to come.
You're talking about his one-loss record. The amazing thing is he's got 5 decisions. He has just 1 no decision so far this year. That in his first start of the year. Here's Arcia swinging and missing. It's 1-1.
Yeah, he's been around this game for a while now. He's not a, he's not a rookie, and yet he's going after his 4th consecutive win in a row. It just, doesn't get a lot of decisions.
1-1 to Arcia. And inside, 2-1.
I think, again, we talked about it in the first 2 games of this series. The improved defense for this White Sox team is going to be a huge plus for all starters, and Quintana is going to be one of the guys to benefit from that.
Missing the inside corner again. Quintana walked Polanco in the first inning. Breaking ball drops over for a strike. Three and 2 to Arcia, who's drawn 4 walks in this series and has hit a home run. Chopper right side. LAWRIE the first, 2 down. And Mastroeni will hit. Cold Hard Facts brought to you by the Silver Bullet, clean and crisp Coors Light. And the Twins know all about Jordan Zimmerman, how well he's pitched, although he lost his last start. Jose Quintana right there. And ordinarily, you would say, well, Chris Sale is the one of the better pitchers in the league. At least Jose Quintana is not Chris Sale, but on many levels he's pitched better than Sale over the at least against the Twins he has.
Well, what that graphic shows is when you see 2 guys on the same team up there in the American leaders list, it's impressive to see one of the reasons why a team is doing so well.
2 strikes to Mastroeni. 0 for 4 in his Twins debut yesterday. In the dirt, 1 and 2. And of course, there's an emerging left-hander that the White Sox feel can be dominant. Carlos Rodon. Inside, and now 2 and 2. Veteran left-hander John Danks was designated for assignment. Twins really enjoyed hitting against him in recent years.
He really lost his stuff, and the White Sox gave him a huge contract that they are eating right now. The Quintana guy worked both sides of the plate.
Called 3rd strike.
Off to a good start himself.
5 in a row sent down by Quintana. We are scoreless in Chicago.
We're really hungry for a good start. You know, it's been taxing on the entire team, particularly our bullpen, in terms of the lack of innings we've seen here over the past week from our rotation. You know, so the best remedy, I think, today to get off to a good start, give ourselves a chance, is for Tyler to come back and have another good outing for us.
The longest outing on this road trip for a Twins starting pitcher was the opener of this road trip in Houston, Jose Barrios, and he went 5 1/3 innings. Frazier taking ball one, and you can see what Alex Meyer did. He was fine through 2 innings and then couldn't get through the third. Phil Hughes was done after 2. Nolasco after 5.
Well, there's nothing like it to throw a bunch of zeros, and that's why I look at Tyler Duffy and no, he doesn't have the experience. I think he has that missing factor. It's a ground ball there, a nice easy throw from Nunez.
But you enjoy the fact that pink bats get shattered like brown ones.
Yeah, they're fragile.
Northland Ford defense for the Twins, and again they're giving away an immense amount of experience to the White Sox here today. Rosario's in left, Mastroianni in center, RCA in right. Blue and Nunez left side of the infield. Blue's still in there after doing something in his first inning at bat. Polanco and Park on the right side, Centeno behind the plate.
What I was about to say about Duffy is, you know, every pitcher in the rotation is going to say, yeah, I want to be that guy. It's one thing to say it and one thing to feel it. And Tyler Duffy is going to show people there's a difference. You know, he doesn't have the experience, but he's got it inside of him.
2-0. Well, he showed that the Twins, for all intents and purposes, were in a pennant race in the second half last year, and you could make the case, I suppose, that Duffy was their most reliable starting pitcher. He had one start against the White Sox, and that was one of the few starts that didn't go particularly well for him. 2-1. And a breaking ball over. That's one thing that he showed last year. We've seen it here too. The ability to throw something other than the fastball for a strike when he's behind in the count.
Yeah, he's got a lot of confidence in both his breaking balls.
Check swing. Strike 3. Cabrera gone, 2 away here in the second inning.
When Paul talks about bulldog mentality, it's stuff like that right there. He throws a breaking ball, and then he comes back inside and comes right after the guy. That's challenging a guy. Most young pitchers are taught away, 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 down and away, soft away, everything away. Well, if you don't pitch inside occasionally, guys are going to start thinking about away. We saw Abreu hit a home run off Nolasco the other night. Great pitcher's pitch, but he went down and got it and hooked it into left field. You've got to stay inside and keep them honest.
5 up, 5 down on just 16 pitches for Duffy so far, and he delivers ball 1 now to LAWRIE. Just off the corner, 2-0.
And Duffy is going to be pitching here today to Juan Centeno. You know, he doesn't have a lot of experience at the big league level. Kurt Suzuki banged up, and I'm sure you'd rather have a veteran catcher out there for a young pitcher.
Deep to right center field. And Arce on the edge of the track makes the catch. Another 1-2-3 inning for Duffy. And we're scoreless heading to the third. CenturyLink. Switch to CenturyLink Prism TV for an advanced TV experience. Learn more at cprismtv.com. Well, too young to get a present, flowers, a card, or even to say the word. So we'll speak for that young man. Happy Mother's Day to that mom and all moms out there. Juan Centeno to lead off the third for the Twins. And he takes up an in ball one. Kurt Suzuki last night took a foul tip off the center of the mask, as Kurt described it afterwards. Normally, it hits off to the side and peels the mask off one way or the other. And this one caught him right squarely in the middle of the mask, and he suffered some whiplash symptoms. Not concussion symptoms, but whiplash. His trapezius muscles were stiff. 1-1. Centeno grounds it to second. Easy play for LAWRIE. One down. And again, you'll see the mask stay on here, with the mask taking the full brunt of the foul tip.
I asked Kirk today, I went in and asked him how he was doing and talked to him a little bit. I said, how many times in your career would you guess that you've been hitting the mask? And he says, oh, hundreds.
Yeah.
And he said, you know, when I was young, a lot stronger, he said, I just shake it right off and get right back there. But he says, everyone now is more and more, he's more and more aware of, because it does ring his bell. It makes him what he described as a foggy back there, and that's part of a concussion syndrome. And he's going to experiment with the new type of face mask. He got some information from a couple other catchers wearing the new style mask.
The goalie mask type thing?
Yeah, the goalie type mask.
2-0 to Rosario.
And he's gonna give it a try. He knows how much hotter they are. But he said, at this point in my career, I've got to try something.
Rosario swings through the 2-0 pitch, 2-1.
Alex Avila for the White Sox, former Tiger catcher, is wearing that new style mask.
2-1 to Rosario. And a liner to left, a base hit.
Rosario's got really good numbers against Quintana. He's faced him a few times. Came into this game 2 for 5, now 3 for 6, batting .500. See this pitch again. Ball out over the plate. Quintana just being aggressive and trying to get strikes, and Rosario puts a nice swing on this one, gets a base hit.
We'll bring up Nunez, who doubled down the left field line his first time up, and then made a base running mistake, getting doubled off second on the Sano liner to center. I mentioned Nunez entering the game with a .500 slugging percentage. Young Ho Park actually leads the team at .598. 1-0. OPS over 900 coming into the game, which for a guy, there goes Rosario, the ball hit to left. Rosario round second, he'll dig for third, and Nunez has 2 more hits here today, and in each case the helmet stayed on.
Well, Rosario running on that pitch, and the ball's in front of him, and he sees that Melky Cabrera doesn't have the speed that Austin Jackson does over there in center field. Not quite going to be able to get to this ball, so he's able to round second and take the extra base to third there. So Twins with first and third, just 1 out, another scoring opportunity.
Polanco at the plate. He drew his second walk since his call up in the first inning, and was left at first. Takes a strike at the knees. Twins with the only 3 hits in the game. Nunez has 2 of them.
Don't really have a spreadsheet on Polanco yet, so they're playing him straight away.
Checked his swing. It's a nice check. Everything that is involved in a swing committed to the pitch, except the hands. Look at this.
Yep, he just did not let that wrist break. Somehow was able to stay back enough.
1-1 to Polanco. Twins at first and second, nobody out, didn't score in the first. Now first and third with one out in the third. Don't do a whole lot of running against Quintana, and the Twins, after the one-out single by Rosario, sent him in motion.
Well, he's checking Nunez over at first base for the simple fact he doesn't want him to take off and eliminate the double play.
2-1. Will walk. A few years ago in Fort Myers, 378 at bats, 46 walks. Fouled away, now 2-2. Here's the mismatch in terms of experience in the series finale here. The Twins coming into the game with 5,804 major league at bats. Trevor Plouffe has about half of those. And the White Sox have 29,152 major league at bats coming into the game.
Yeah, this is the two lineups in today's game. And it is a ridiculously lopsided statistic.
2-2. Pitch grounded up the middle. The Twins sending Nunez will stay out of the double play and get a run.
Well, by sending him right there, it scores a run, because that would have been a double play ball. So Paul kind of aware that a ground ball could do that. And that's why Quintana was throwing over to first base so much there with Nunez at first. But Nunez gets a good jump. He gets down, beats the throw, or beats the step on the bag by Jimmy Rollins, and all he can do is go to first, get Polanco, and Rosario scores.
Now Sano, who blistered a ball to center field, caught by Jackson, and Nunez was doubled off. So not a base hit, but a successful hit and run nonetheless. Second of the inning for the Twins. Sano takes down and in, ball one. Mauer out of the lineup. Sano hitting third. Twins recently had Mauer hitting third, Dozier second before he got hurt. In Mauer's case, he was supposed to have the day off yesterday, but of course Park got hit in the knee, and Joe had to take over at first base in the bottom of the first inning. Sano has played every game for the Twins, and if Mauer doesn't come in today, he will have played in every game but today's game. 1-1. Tapped foul, 1-2.
Players are protected way more this time in this generation, no question about it. And I think, in all honesty, it's probably a good thing to get a break once in a while. But you think about Ripken. You think about the guy that the record that he broke in Gehrig, and the fact that they played most of their career without a day off.
Ball barely made it out of the grass off the shoulder of Navarro on a wild pitch, a very wild pitch, advancing Nunez to third.
So another runner 90 feet away.
That's the thing about Ripken. You know, shortstop is such a physically demanding position, much more so than Gehrig's position first base. And Ripken never DH'd until after he had broken Gehrig's record. And of course moved to third base later on. 2-2 to Sano. Twins with a run on the board. Need to get Nunez in from third. Missing inside. It's 3-2. Plouffe on deck.
We were talking about Chris Sale, how the Twins had him on the ropes in the first inning. He got out of it with only 2 runs allowed. And Quintana, I think you could say the same thing. You want to get to this guy with these kind of opportunities.
Sano, a hard ground ball hit right to Rollins, who bobbles it, picks it up, and fires in time to get Sano. The Twins get a pair of singles in the game's first run at the top of the third. Again, from all of us with the Twins and Fox Sports North, happy Mother's Day. Hope that everyone's to this point had a good day. Twins will try to do their part and win a ball game here for Twins fans who happen to be mothers out there. Avisail Garcia will lead things off. Deanna Navarro and Austin Jackson will follow. First pitch hammered to left. Leadoff single for the White Sox. Garcia, the first base runner, after 2 1-2-3 innings for Tyler Duffy. Twins fans, if you can't catch the games on TV, you can stream them live on your mobile device with the all-new Fox Sports Go app. You can download the app, take Fox Sports North and Twins baseball with you wherever you go. On this Mother's Day, maybe next weekend, on the fishing opener, be able to follow the Twins in the boat. You working next weekend? I know that you're leaving to do some Tiger broadcasts here.
I will be working again next weekend. Yeah,
for the Twins.
Pre-post.
Okay.
Doing Twin stuff. Yep.
So that'll keep you out of the boat on the fishing opener, won't it?
Unfortunately, Will, I haven't heard that they've got a TV crew that want to follow me out there on the boat. So.
Have you always been a good outdoorsman or an avid outdoorsman? I know you are now.
Well, obviously, you know, you play for 18 years. You don't get to do the things you would like to do, but I was introduced at a young age fishing.
Should be a double play. And is. Duffy gives up a base hit, but 2 pitches later he takes care of it with Navarro grounding into a tailor-made double play. Time now for greater coverage of baseball, brought to you by T-Mobile. With some news and notes from around baseball. Aaron Hill with 3 home runs, including a grand slam in Milwaukee's win over the Reds. And how about Bartolo Colon, 42 years old, and he finally hit a home run. Of course, most of his time was spent in the American League when he didn't get a chance to hit. And Robinson Cano making an early bid for the comeback player of the year. He's off to a great start. And watch out for that Seattle ball club right now. They didn't get off to the best of starts, but they're playing awfully good right now. They're leading the American League West by a 1.5 over Texas. Strike 1, now strike 2 to Jackson.
Tyler Duffy is just going about his business. You know, he's not worried about run support. He's just doing what he can do and throwing strikes, attacking the strike zone. being aggressive.
You know what he just showed there, I think our cameras caught it. Frustration with himself because of one pitch. He didn't like his release point and the fact that the breaking ball kind of sailed on him. And he's very hard on himself out there. I don't know if you can relate to that or not.
Was that a subtle little way of asking me something? Have I got counseling? Yes.
But I know you were that way, and I'm guessing in one way or another, all good pitchers are that way. The result might be good. It might be a swing and a miss, but if you don't hit your spot, the ball hit into the shift. Polanco has it. An 8-pitch inning for Tyler Duffy. He's faced the minimum through 3. He's got a 1-0 lead, and Trevor Plouffe will lead off the 4th. By Northland Ford. Visit northlandford.com and your local Northland Ford dealer today. And by Grand Casino. The best stories start here. With Audra Martin, Jack Morris, and Dick Bramer, with the Twins leading 1-0. Tyler Duffy has been outstanding so far. And the biggest question as we begin the 4th inning here, will Trevor Plouffe be able to take a full swing at the ball? He appeared to tweak something when he struck out swinging in the 1st. He stayed in the game, maybe as much as out of necessity as anything else. The Twins roster is all dinged up here, so we'll hope that Plouffe will be able to swing away here and not feel any side effects. There's ball 1. Plouffe, of course, had an oblique injury that put him on the disabled list, just recently off that disabled list. Checked his swing. I would guess if whatever the issue was, if it were an oblique, a check swing like that would be something that would trigger an awful lot of pain. Quintana isn't doing us any favors for those of us who are curious whether Trevor's okay.
Maybe it's a good thing. Trevor might not have to swing at all to get a free base, but he talked his way. Dave Plumer and Paul Molitor both came out to talk to him, and he talked his way back into the game.
3-0. And now 3-1. Wrapped toward 3rd and through. So Plouffe getting the ball on the hard with some on the ground with some authority, gets a leadoff single.
Well,
if it hurt, to be fine.
If it hurt, it was a good hurt because it ends up being a productive swing. Nothing overly exerting right there. He followed through. Kind of that Walt Riniak type swing where his top hand comes off the bat.
Here's Park, hit a bouncer to short his first time up. down and away, ball one. This road trip started with the Twins having their best game in terms of one good plate appearance after another, having an approach at the plate and sticking to it against Dallas Keuchel, the reigning Cy Young Award winner for the Astros. Here's a high fly to left. And Cabrera hardly has to move. In fact, now he comes in with the wind blowing in from left field. 1 away. That'll bring up Arcia. Today's Toyota Key stat, and the White Sox are where they are because of outstanding pitching, and so too the Cubs in the National League. Great pitching. And we mentioned Seattle, they're a first place ball club because of pitching. And Jim Pohlad, the owner of the Twins, said it's been kind of a system-wide failure for the Twins, and starting pitching a big part of that. The bullpen's had some issues. Here's Arcia. In other words, the Twins are where they're at in part because of their failure to pitch well. First couple weeks, remember the 9-game losing streak, and the games were all pretty reasonable, losing games by 4-2, 3-1, 3-2. That's not been the case recently. 1-0 to Arcia. On the left field line and in the seats.
When you're a part of a team that is going through what the Twins are going through right now, you really do have to reflect and look at yourself and say, what can I do? How can I be better? And for Paul, when he said pitch by pitch, that's as simple as you can put it. But Tyler Duffy doing his part today in giving the Twins a chance. Now they have another base runner on. They have a 1-run lead against a very good pitcher.
Slice to the line, and that is speared on the first hop by Cabrera. Made a nice play there. If that ball had gotten by him, Twins might have gotten a run. But Arcia continues to do well and continues to collect hits to the opposite field. Well, you're leaving Twins television for a few days, so this is your last shot at our Carsoup.com trivia question. The last White Sox pitcher to lead the American League in earned run average.
Well, they've had some good ones. Jack McDowell was a very good one.
Here's Mastroianni, called out on strikes his first time up. Ball one.
2005 banner hanging up there in right field. World champion Chicago White Sox. Got to try to remember the rotation they had.
Mark Burley, certainly a big part of it. El Duque, I think, was part of that.
Both of them
Contreras
were capable of leading the league in ERA.
1-1 to Mastroianni. Twins with 5 hits and a walk taken against Quintana, but just a 1-0 lead so far. Fouled back. Mastroianni had a great spring training, and we have been reminded, haven't we, in April and May here, that regardless of what happens in March, it really doesn't matter when the bell rings. But Mastroianni, it seemed like in every game in spring training, got not 1 but 2 hits, but he did not make the team and didn't hit much in Rochester once he was assigned there. 1-2. He was an outfield mate of Byron Buxton and Max Kepler, who were here earlier this year. And Mastroianni strikes out, 2 away.
Quintana can get tough. The Twins, we talked about it already, that have had opportunities, runners in scoring position, and only one has come across the plate. Mastroianni chases out of the zone on the breaking ball there.
Fox tracks presented by Dodge. And now Centeno, a little ground ball to second his first time up. Strike on the outside corner. Centeno with 3 major league runs batted in.
And it's his first time, well, second plate appearance, but first game facing Quintana.
And now strike 2. Twins have had a leadoff double but didn't score. Now trying to take advantage of Plouffe's leadoff single. High chopper and force man at second base. RCO is retired, and the Twins strand 2 in the 4th. Flex Plan gives you the flexibility to choose your games and your number of seats. You can choose in advance, even the day of the game, so don't plan. Flex Plan. Go to twinsbaseball.com/flex or call 800-33-TWINS to learn more. Tyler Duffy misses the outside corner. And an off-speed pitch, just his 28th pitch of the ball game. 9 outs on 27 pitches, which by my math means 3 pitches per out. 1-1. And I did that in my head.
That was quick. It was pretty impressive, really.
Eaton, Rollins, and Abreu were retired 1, 2, 3 in the first. Now inside, 2-1.
Eaton, the one guy in the lineup that has had good numbers in this early part of Duffy's career.
Ooh. He thought he had the outside corner there. I did too. 3-1. Eaton, a speedy runner, and Duffy doesn't want to walk anybody, but certainly not Eaton. And he missed a 5-pitch walk, and Eaton and his speed are aboard here in the 4th.
Well, leadoff walks tend to haunt, and Duffy knows it. He's frustrated with the fact that he gave him a free pass.
And now Jimmy Rollins struck out on 3 pitches. Rollins not hitting much, just 84 at bats on the year. Outside to Rollins. One and 0. A strike that covers the inside corner, and Centeno's going to hand deliver the baseball. Quick trip to the mound by the Twins catcher. Duffy sailing through 3 innings. The only other time the White Sox had a runner, the 3rd inning, when Garcia led off the inning with a single, and then 2 pitches later, Duffy got a ground ball double play. Need to keep an eye on Eaton at first. 4 steals and 5 tries. Hacked foul. You can see Duffy pretty quick to the plate from the stretch position. 1 and 2.
Well, his focus has to be on the hitter. You don't want to lose the hitter. He's got to be aware of the speed that Eaton has, and Robin Ventura not afraid to send him.
And through the hole to right. And Eaton flying to third base. A ground ball between Park at first and Polanco at second. And a tying run at third with nobody out.
When you're as hot a team as the Chicago White Sox are, things are going your way, and a lot of times just a simple ground ball, the difference can be finding the hole. This one found the hole right between Park and Polanco. And now the White Sox have something cooking at the heart of their order coming up in Abreu.
Abreu with a bouncer to short. The Twins will hope that he hits another one to Nunez. They'll concede the tying run, try to get a double play, and stay out of a big inning. Over for strike 1.
Rollins was a guy in his younger days that might be able to grab a bag here. Gets Robin Ventura, might have started him, but as a veteran player, doesn't run quite as well. Has lost a step or two. Still a smart base runner.
And now over the inside corner with a breaking ball.
The Twins scored their 1 run in this game because Paul Molitor started Eduardo Nunez and kept him out of a double play.
In his big league career, and it's just beginning, of course, but Duffy struck out just about 1 man per inning pitch, and if there's a strikeout this inning, he would like it to be this guy. 0-2 to Abreu. And there is the strikeout. 3 breaking balls, 2 taken, and Abreu waved at one that wasn't close to being a strike.
You're absolutely right, though, Dick. In the course of a game, there are strikeouts that matter, and this one right here is huge. You get the number 3 hitter to chase out of the zone. He's looking to hit the ball in the seats right there, and Duffy's aware of it. He bounces one down and away. Centeno does a good job of blocking that ball. And now a ground ball from Frazier might get him out of this jam.
There's only been one, make that 2 fly ball outs. All the other outs have come via strikeout and ground balls. Frazier hit a ground ball to Nunez his first time up. Time called Eaton, bluffing down the line at least 3 times, with Duffy pretty much staring at him.
Yeah, there's a signal from the catcher, and it comes from the dugout. They call it the hold, where you just get to your set position and just pause. You want to see if there's any indication whatsoever that the runner at first might be going. You're not worried about Eaton at third. You're aware of him, but you're not concerned that he's going to try to steal home. Of course, from the set position, all you have to do is step off, and you've got the guy dead at third base.
Breaking ball missing, ball 1.
If you remember yesterday's game, Todd Frazier hit a couple balls hard on the inner half of the plate, so he's pretty good inside. Duffy's staying away there with a breaking ball.
Trying to preserve a 1-0 lead. Fastball up and away, 2-0.
Duff's just going a little too fast with his lower body. He walked Adam Eaton to start this inning. Falling behind Frazier here. That pitch he definitely rushed with his lower half.
2-0 to Todd Frazier. There goes Rollins. And the pitch taken for ball 3. Rollins steals second base. And now a base open and a 3-0 count to the cleanup batter.
Well, that takes him out of the double play, so that strikeout that he got from Abreu would be great. He's got to come back. Either that or not give a cookie to Frazier here, put him on first, and then hope that you can get Cabrera, Melky Cabrera, the on-deck hitter, to hit into a ground ball.
Pampered is short, or the third rather. Plouffe looks and throws to first. A look at home, but the smart play is to get the out. Plouffe got that, 2 down. And the leadoff walk, almost predictably, comes around to score.
Well, he got the ground ball, but it was a pitch too late. Jimmy Rollins had already stolen a base and got to second base, and Duffy's very frustrated. The White Sox did a bunch of things right in that inning, but it all started with that free pass for Adam Eaton.
Cabrera struck out on a check swing his first time up. Fouled back, a strike. Cabrera has worn out Twins pitching this year. Fastball up and away, and it gets fouled back. 0-2.
He's got to be careful here. He's got a couple chances to miss. See if Melky might swing at a ball that would be conducive to making an out.
Breaking ball gets a swing and a miss, and the inning ends. The leadoff walk leads to the tying run, and we head to the 5th. Tied at 1.
Top of the 5th. Twins fans, don't forget, at Twins home games, bring your Circle Me signs, and if you get circled, you may find yourself in the Minnesota Lottery's winner's circle, where you could win $100 worth of lottery scratch-off tickets, courtesy of the Minnesota Lottery.
Eddie Rosario will lead off the 5th against Quintana. The first pitch fouled back. The Twins have a very brief homestand starting tomorrow night against the Orioles. A night game Monday, night game Tuesday, day game Wednesday, and then Thursday head back on the road to Cleveland and Detroit. Rosario singled and scored his first time up. 1-1. In a way, Rosario kind of exemplifies the struggles the Twins have had, hoping for a better year than the year they had last year. Rosario a key part of that. In fact, the turnaround for the Twins almost coincided with his arrival. Swing and a miss.
I think you really said something that's very accurate. Eddie Rosario's really struggled this year, and here's a guy that was, everybody that was a Twins fan was excited about the potential of what he might be for a lot of years to come. Still may be that guy, but is having a tough go his second time around here in the big leagues.
Of the three new outfielders, and Rosario was new, Buxton was new, Sano a new outfielder, I think there was less concern at the start of the year about Rosario than the other two guys. Buxton, of course, struggled, sent to AAA, and Sano, at least for the time being, is still in right field. Ball hit to right center field, chased by Eaton, and he gets there. One away. Fairly well hit ball, sounded like a man had been out on the end of the bat a little bit. One down. MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, delivers everything you've come to expect and more. You can watch every out-of-market game live in HD on over 400 supported devices. It includes a free subscription to @Bat Premium, the #1 app for live baseball. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.TV for details. Here is Nunez, a double and a single. Twin shortstop. Just missing the outside corner, ball one. Nunez and Plouffe, the only Twin starters today who played a full season in the big leagues. 1-1. And today they're playing side by side on the left side of the infield.
Quite the get up there, the sleeve that he's wearing on the right side for Mother's Day. Looks like it's tattoos, but it's
it better not be
Brett LAWRIE type.
1-2. The Twins lead off batter. And now 2-2. Nunez, when he finally got an opportunity to play a week and a half into the season, started hitting, and he hasn't stopped since. Fouled away.
He looks very comfortable up there, and when a hitter is relaxed, trusts his hands, trusts his eyes, you know, there's a different look up there. When a guy's frustrated and having a tough time, he's not making contact, his body language says a lot different thing. I guess I didn't say that very well, but they appear way different in the batter's box. Nunez looks very, very comfortable.
Polanco hoping for a chance this inning. It's 3-2 to Nunez. Not one to draw a lot of walks, just 3 on the season with 76 at bats. And he chases. Off-speed pitch, and Nunez is out number 2.
Fourth strikeout for Quintana. Most of them have been on the breaking ball. And this is the big slow one that kind of backdoors the outer half of the plate, comes back in, but also takes a little bit off the breaking ball, and looked like Nunez was way out in front.
Polanco now with 2 down, and he pops it up, back and out of play. Polanco with a walk in the first, drove in the Twins' run with a ground ball to short. It would have been a double play grounder if not for the fact that Nunez took off in the pitch. And on the play, the run scored. Here's a ball hooked foul, hit hard, but very foul. 2 strikes. Polanco hoping to get more than it hasn't even been a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
7th call up, and none of them have lasted more than 4 days. This one looks like it's going to be more than 4 days.
Well, he's finally getting a chance to have some at bats. He's pretty much been an insurance policy so far in all his call ups.
Down and away, 1-2. 81 pitches for Quintana as he's trying to finish off affairs here in the 5th inning.
That is one of the drawbacks for Quintana. We talked about his durability. He's out there a lot, hasn't been hurt, but his pitch count will climb early in a ball game, and a lot of no decisions in his career because of that.
Two and two to Polanco. Foul back. I believe this guy will hit at the big league level. They're not sure yet where to play him, whether it's on the left side of second base or the right side. Two and two.
Kind of the cart before the horse. If he can hit, they'll find a place.
Taking low, 3 and 2. Mentioned he will take some walks, and he took one in the 1st inning. Full count with Sano on deck. That is a foul ball, 3-4 feet over the reach of Frazier.
So Polanco has hit a couple balls hard off of Quintana, but can't keep it straight. Can't keep it between the lines.
Quintana having to work here with the pitch count up to 85 through 7 pitches to Nunez before striking him out. And 7 so far in this at-bat. Caught by Frazier. A well hit ball for the 3rd out, a 1-2-3 5th, but it took 20 pitches to get the 3 outs. And we have a tie game here on Mother's Day, bottom of the 5th coming up. And Brent Lawrie will lead off the 5th for Chicago against Tyler Duffy. One of your great attributes in your great career was you were a Bulldog. Now, we've heard that term thrown out regarding Duffy, and that's something he still has yet to establish. This is just his 13th Major League start, so no one's dropping any names on him or anything yet. But one of the things I think of when I think of a Bulldog is what happens after an inning kind of got away from him with the leadoff walk and the base hit. He gave up a run, struggled much more in the fourth than in the 3 other innings combined. And what happens after that inning, we'll find out here in the 5th inning. But would you agree that that's kind of an important attribute to pitch well after a rough inning for a Bulldog?
Well, you talk about emotions, and he showed some emotion out there. You know, you've got to be able to control those emotions, and the best way to control them is get your team back in the dugout by refocusing and making good pitches.
2-2.
But what I think separates Tyler Duffy from a lot of young pitchers is he shows no fear. He expects to make pitches, to execute out there, and you know, it's something that is a different attitude, I think, than a lot of guys. You can't hope for it.
Fly ball. Caught by Mastroianni, 1 away. Bring up ROSARIO Garcia. Pepsi fans of the game. These fans started this road trip with a win, hoping to finish it with a win. And said the mothers and their daughters, who are White Sox fans, send them home unhappy. As coarse as that may sound on Mother's Day.
We deserve some love today, don't we? All the mothers do, but we do too.
Well, Duffy's done something here today that has been a rarity. The ball hit to right center field, and Arcia won't get it. It one-hops the fence, and it is a double for Garcia, who hit the first pitch he saw in the 3rd inning for a single. Now a first pitch double with 1 out in the 5th.
Garcia came into the game 0 for 2 off Duffy, 2 for 2 today. And both balls have been hit hard. That one gets by Arcia in right field. So again, Duffy going to have to pitch out of the stretch here and make some good pitches to a hitter, Deoner Navarro, that's done well in this series against Twins pitching. Navarro had 3 hits in yesterday's game. An RBI.
Navarro bounced into the double play his last time up. Chop to the right side, and Park will get the hop and flip to Duffy. 2 down, and on the play Garcia goes to 3rd. Twins have won just 4 of the last 16 games. Duffy today, for the first time in 16 games, put 3 zeros up to start the game. Those are not coincidental factors. I mean, the Twins have fallen behind early so often over the last 2.5 weeks, and at least today Duffy put 3 zeros up, gave up 1 on the 4th, and has kept the team in the ball game to this point.
That's the key to winning at any level, is do not put up crooked numbers. Give your team a chance. Stay in the game. And in order to stay in the game nowadays, you've got to be within 1, maybe 2. You're out by 3 or 4, and they're going to look to the bullpen. They're going to look for help.
And Jackson drives a base hit to right. Garcia will score. Mastroianni turns and fires, but Jackson has an RBI double. Another big 2-out hit for the White Sox, and they lead it 2-1.
It's pretty clear by his swing that Austin Jackson was sitting on the breaking ball there. Tyler Duffy might have gone 1 too many times to the well, and watch how Austin Jackson just did not flinch at all. Ball's away from him, pretty good location, but you've got to be able to mix it up. Duffy was doing a good job early in this game of pounding guys in, and that time Austin Jackson does a nice job with a pitch that wasn't that easy to hit.
That had the right approach, a pitch down and away from him, and he drove it hard to the opposite field. And now Adam Eaton walked and scored his last time up. Foul back. And in Jackson's case, early in his career, that's a pitch he may have tried to pull. He's got about 3,500 major league at-bats.
How about the same as the Twins lineup?
We figured it out. Melky Cabrera has about as many major league at-bats as the entire Twins lineup today. Up and away. But there is some truth to it. When you're on the downside of it like the Twins are, they're sending out players even before all the injuries, trying to get experience, trying to get at-bats, trying to learn how to hit. Now here's Jackson with 3,500 at-bats, and he hit a pitch that was down and away from him, and he hit it to the only part of the field where something good could happen. If he tried to pull that ball, it would have been a swing and a miss or a two-hopper to short.
Well, everybody has to have a start somewhere, and I think what we're going to probably see more of this summer is Twins players in the youth mode that are, going to get opportunities, and it takes time. Fine wine isn't made in a day.
Swinging a foul back, still 1-2.
But with that being said, experience can really be a factor in a game like today. You look at today's lineup and you almost have to roll your eyes saying, really, do we have a chance? But Paul Molitor has to believe that. The coaching staff has to believe it. Terry Ryan has to believe that. And more importantly, the players have to believe it.
Dumped on the left field line. And a nice running catch by Eddie Rosario to end the inning. Eaton looked like he hit a dying Quail to left to drive in another run, but Rosario with a quick start and a nice diving catch at the end. May 24th, a great event for a great cause. The 12th annual Kids in the City, celebrating the Fox Sports North Boys and Girls Club All-Stars. The event starts with a pregame party at Fulton Brewery, followed by the Twins and Royals game at Target Field. You can visit foxsportsnorth.com, click on upcoming events in the Hot Topics bar for details. Miguel Sano to lead off the sixth inning. Sano with a line out to center. Turned into a double play when Nunez left second base too early, and then a ground ball to short. It's been more than 2 weeks now since Sano's hit a home run. Last home run coming in Washington, D.C. at the start of that road trip.
Yeah, he's in a little bit of a slump himself right now. He's one hit in this series so far.
1-1.
He's hit the ball hard a few times, but hasn't had a lot to show for it.
The designated hitter today. A high fly to center. And Jackson makes the catch one away. Ordinarily, this is a pretty friendly ballpark to hit in, and the ball carries well to all field. But here, a pretty good wind blowing in from left center. One down, and that'll bring up Bloof. Bloof appeared to be okay with his leadoff single in the fourth. He took one swing, hit the ball hard on the ground into left field, but he appeared to tweak something in his first inning strikeout. Swing and a foul into the seats, one strike. Popped up right field. Caught by Eaton, 2 away. And it'll bring up Young-Ho Park.
Quintana seems to have settled in a little bit here with 2 outs here in the 6th inning. He did give up the 1 run. The Twins scored in the 3rd. Twins have out-hit the White Sox so far, 5-4.
Park 0 for 2, a ground ball and a fly ball, and he takes strike 1. One and one. Park tied for 8th in the American League with his 7 home runs. Robinson Cano leading with 11. Swing and a miss. 1 and 2. Could be quite a home run race between Cano and Jose Altuve, 2nd in the league with 9. Park strikes out in the 1-2-3-6 for Quintana. Thing I'm happy about, Jack, for the mothers out there that for the first time in several years, Mother's Day's observed the weekend before the fishing opener. Seems like there's always been that.
There's been the controversy.
Yes, and so the mothers will have today, as they should have, and then there won't be that conflict within families about what to do with the fishing opener. Take your mother fishing or your wife fishing, if she is inclined to do that.
I think that's one of the things that makes our state unique. I don't think a lot of other states have the tradition excitement over the fishing opener that Minnesota does.
1-1 to Rollins. And just foul. A soft line drive. Park couldn't snag it, and it hooked foul. Target Field suites are available for single game rental for groups of 16 to 150 plus. You can enjoy a climate controlled experience and a fantastic view of a Twins game with food and beverage included. Learn more at twinsbaseball.com/groups or call 800-33-TWINS. Schedule your suite at Target Field. On the outside corner. And Duffy strikes out Rollins for the second time.
Well, he caught a break there by the foul ball just going foul, and then he comes back and makes a very good pitcher's pitch. Breaking ball on the outer half of the plate. It freezes Jimmy Rollins. And you can see by Fox Tracks there that it did catch part of that strike zone.
Not just the seams either. Here's Abreu. Drilled. Foul. Look out. Right near the tarp. Abreu with a bouncer to short and a strikeout. Duffy came into the game with just 2 earned runs allowed in 2 starts. Remember, in his first start, he had to leave the game when he got drilled in the shoulder by a line drive. And now 2 more earned runs here today. The other earned runs came on home runs, which is odd because he doesn't give up many home runs. But Matt Den Decker at Nationals Park hit a leadoff home run in his first start, and then Justin Upton hit a 3-run home run in the first inning of his last start. Drilled to left center. And off the base of the wall, and it bounced over for a ground rule double. Abreu cranks a long double to center field with 1 out.
The White Sox scored their last run, the go-ahead run, the bottom of the 5th inning after 1 out on a double, and that was followed by another double. Abreu goes down and gets this, and again, pitching inside is so important for that breaking ball type of pitcher. You've got to come in order to get the outer half of the plate.
Frazier's hit 2 ground balls to short, 1 driving in a run. Now, why would it be? We mentioned that Duffy doesn't give up many home runs. Remember last year when he was called up, 138 innings, and he'd given up just 1 home run in the minor leagues last year. Gave up a couple in his first start to the Blue Jays, and then only 2 more after that. There's a 2-hopper to third. Plouffe fires across, 2 down. But what is it about his stuff? Or is it his command? What, for some reason, he's able to keep the ball in the ballpark.
Well, he's a breaking ball guy, and you know, if you're going to give up home runs as a breaking ball guy, you got to hang pitches. You know, because when you throw a good breaking ball, it's down in the zone usually, and it's hard for them to hook a ball or lift the ball when it's way down in the zone, especially off the plate, down and away. And that's why scouts and pitching coaches and everybody wants pitchers nowadays to pitch down and away. It's harder to hit. That's the hardest ball to hit out of the ballpark. You make a mistake middle half in and it's out over the plate a little bit. You know, that's that's the beach ball that everybody wants. So, you know, you miss away and the ball is supposed to be down and away and you're way off the plate, you could still get the hitter to swing. Duffy is a breaking ball pitcher primarily. Neil Allen coming out to remind him the importance of pitching here to Cabrera. He struck him out twice. Got him chasing a fastball. Got him to swinging a couple breaking balls down.
Yeah, an interesting trip to the mound. I'm sure talking about strategy, pitch selection. There's a breaking ball. That's the pitch that struck out Cabrera swinging in the 4th.
He's got Cabrera frustrated here. Every time he's looking for the fastball or guessing fastball, he gets the breaking ball, and every time he's looking for the breaking ball, the fastball has been the pitch. So he's kind of caught in between so far.
Ground ball on another breaking ball. Duffy has a scoreless 6th inning. We head to the 7th. It's 2-1. story of the game with the White Sox up a run.
Twins got on the board first. They sent Eduardo Nunez to stay away from the double play, and that scored Eddie Rosario. And then after a leadoff walk, Adam Eaton comes all the way around. And Austin Jackson drove in. Avisail Garcia, both guys doubling. And that put the Chicago White Sox ahead in the 5th inning.
Oswaldo Arcia will lead off the 7th against Quintana. 1 for 2 today against the lefty. Swing and a foul. There's some evidence that Arcia has started to figure some things out. The average at 279, but he has an incredibly high BABIP. Do you know what BABIP is?
Yeah, isn't that a town in northern Minnesota?
On the Iron Range, right. There's a ball driven to right, and Eaton's there to catch the liner. Well, prior to that at bat, Arcia's batting average on balls in play, well, I don't have the average, but he was 17 for 36, hitting nearly 500 when he didn't strike out. 1 down. And that'll bring up Mastroeni. Mastroeni struck out twice, and so far is 0 for 6 with 4 strikeouts.
I keep saying this, and I think it's time I say it publicly. Sabermetrics guys are close. You know, they've been working with figures and numbers and all sorts of stuff, but it's not about numbers, it's about letters. W and L are the only ones that matter.
The BABIP stat was used extensively regarding criticizing or analyzing, not criticizing, but analyzing Danny Santana 2 years ago. He had a really high BABIP. Well, one of the things that might tell you is that when he hits the ball hard, and a higher percentage of balls are going to drop in safely for hits. As we've seen with Arcia, we saw it from Santana, and now Quintana has an issue on the mound. 2-1. Robin Ventura and Herm Schneider, the old
Fossil.
There you go. I thought I'd give you another shot to take a dig at Schneider, and there's some concern here about Quintana.
Well, Quintana waved them off like there's no concern, but they're going to be cautious and make sure of it, whatever it was. See if we can see anything on this last pitch from Jose Quintana. Shaking his hand like I don't know. My hand never went numb. I don't know what exactly that was, other than maybe a cramp of some sort. I don't think it's a blister issue, but he's going to be fine.
2-1 to Mastroeni. Fly to right. Routine play for Eaton. 2 down. And that'll bring up Centeno. And in the Chicago bullpen, Nate Jones and Dan Jennings, 2 gone here. Centeno with 2 ground balls to second base so far. And he takes a strike over the inside corner.
Well, pitch count being a part of the reason that there's activity in the White Sox bullpen. Quintana now with 102 pitches.
There's a ball hit to right center field. That's down for a hit. Centeno doesn't run well, so he'll hold up with a single. Nice retrieve by Jackson. And an otherwise faster runner might have tried to stretch that single into a double with 2 outs. As it is, Rosario comes up with a man aboard.
Austin Jackson, the way he went after that ball, looked like he was going to chase it in the alley, but there was kind of a deke. He was rounding the ball to come back into it so that he might get that runner to try to go down to second base and have a chance to throw him out.
Rosario's hit the ball hard twice. A single to left and a liner to right. two-hopper. The first pitch to Abreu. 7 innings complete for Jose Quintana. And the White Sox threatening to make it back-to-back sweeps over the Twins in a pair of 3-game series. Still a couple innings to go as the Twins hope to end the road trip as they started it with a win. It's Sunday afternoon and it's Mother's Day. A couple of reasons to be very happy and proud to bring you God Bless America.
Please welcome Miles Hayes for the singing of God Bless America.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet
in front, heading to the bottom of the 7th inning. And some Mother's Day news and notes. You've been passed on the Tiger strikeout list, young man.
Well, I figured that guy would do it, and I only can say that I can't believe it took him so long.
Robinson Cano with 3 home runs over the last couple of games. 5 home runs for the Orioles today. The Twins will face the Orioles next. Another first place ball club for the Twins to try to figure out, solve this awful start to the season. Started in Baltimore when the Twins were swept in 3 close ball games. Brent Lawrie leading off the Chicago 7th. He'll be followed by Garcia and Navarro.
Regardless of the results of this game, to see a Twins pitcher start the 7th inning as a starter in the pitch count only 73 pitches, you've got to admire what Tyler Duffy has accomplished so far in this game.
Well, again, the Twins are still in the business of winning ball games, but if you have decided to look at the Twins players and try to figure out whether they're part of the solution or part of the problem, Duffy giving another example here today of why a lot of people in the organization think that he's a part of the solution. 1 and 2.
He's kept them in the game, and he's still in the game because of that.
Breaking ball dribbled foul. One way or the other, the 2 best starts on this road trip have been put together by the 2 least experienced members of the rotation, minus Alex Meyer, who just pitched into the 3rd inning in Houston. But Jose Barrios won his first major league game, beating Dallas Keuchel on Monday. And now Duffy's trying to get outs here in the 7th inning. 1-2. Checked his swing, or did he? Strike 3. Yes. LAWRIE strikes out for the first time.
And that's strikeout number 6 for Tyler Duffy. A breaking ball again. When you see a team, and this is a good game plan. Chicago White Sox are a team that scored a lot of runs, and they're aggressive up there. They've got a lot of mojo working for them, but they're also going to chase if they're a team that wants to get on base and kind of show off in front of the home crowd. You've got to understand that.
That was Fox Tracks presented by Carrier. Well, you saw LAWRIE swinging a pink bat. Garcia is not. And of course the players are doing it for breast cancer awareness on Mother's Day. Pink is the color of the day. But you just wonder whether those pink bats are so visible, almost fluorescent. They're so bright. And on a check swing, it's got to be, I would think, a little easier for an umpire to notice if a guy broke through and didn't check his swing in time than if he had it's Garcia's got a black bat or dark brown one. 2 strikes. And he swings through. That's strike 3, but the ball gets away from Centeno, and Garcia will reach. It's the second time that Centeno's had a ball that looked blockable, but he wasn't able to block the pitch. One last night and another one here this afternoon. It is a wild pitch. It was in the dirt. As the case, that was almost a carbon copy of the pitch last night. It landed right near the glove and kicked away.
Well, a break right there for the White Sox. Now Tyler Duffy's going to have to bear down. Navarro hitless in today's game. He did hit into a double play his first at bat.
One strikeout on the first, 1 in the second, 2 in the fourth, 1 in the sixth, 2 of them here in the 7th. And fastball up high. Duffy's gotten 1 ground ball double play. That came in the 3rd inning off the bat of Dioner Navarro. Duffy, 25 years of age. Started last year in Double-A, made 8 starts, promoted to Triple-A, called up to the big league, sent back, called back up. And in spring training, the Twins, under the assumption that he'd be part of the rotation, asked him to work on a changeup. And he diligently worked on it in his appearances in spring training. And maybe to no one's surprise, the numbers weren't very good in spring training. And the Twins ended up the ball hit to right field, and that'll land and go past Garcia to the wall. Garcia around 3rd. He's heading home. He'll score. And the strikeout on a pitch that wasn't blocked leads to an insurance run for the White Sox.
Well, we also talk about outfield defense, how the White Sox have really improved out there. This ball to me looked like it needed to be cut off. You understand that it's going to be a hit, but Dioner Navarro connects on a changeup that's left out over the plate, and Arcia not able to cut that ball off. It rolls by him, and once it does, Avisail Garcia, he pours on the coals there. He's going to get the flag from 3rd base coach Joe Ewing, and he goes all the way around to score.
Now Austin Jackson will bat. And a strike. Duffy, of course, wasn't on the 25-man roster out of spring training, but it didn't take him too long to get called up here. Now single runs in innings 4, 5, and 7. And Got some pitching to do here to keep it to just a 3-1 ball game here with only one out in the inning. Chopped foul. Two strikes to Jackson. Took a breaking ball and doubled to right field, putting the White Sox in front in the 5th inning. That one rolls away from Centeno, but Navarro doesn't try to advance. And when you're out there and you've got a good breaking ball and the catcher calls for it in the dirt, you have to have the confidence that he can block it.
And you're going to have to throw it there over and over, regardless of the results.
That is Duffy's swing and miss pitch. 1-2. Centeno hangs on to strike 3. 2 down. Third strikeout of the inning, and Duffy's got a chance to tie a record set by many. If he can strike out Eaton, he'll have 4 strikeouts this inning.
Well, that's number 8 for Tyler Duffy. Just a reminder, this copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Minnesota Twins and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without express written consent of the Minnesota Twins.
Breaking ball, outside ball 1. Eaton with 2 flies to left, a walk and a run scored, robbed of a hit, a nice play in left by Rosario. Smothered by Centeno. On the subject of outfield play, the Twins of course had Byron Buxton in center field, Rosario in left, Sano in right, and of those 3, Rosario the only player who is out there today. Mastroianni in center field. Buxton hit a 2-run home run again today, hitting just under 300 on the year. Eaton will be walked to fill first base, and Duffy and Centeno will go after Jimmy Rollins.
Duffy has got Jimmy Rollins twice on strikeouts. He has a base hit in this game, but falling behind Adam Eaton, they just decide to go ahead and walk him with the base open.
Rollins will hit with Duffy trying to wrap things up here in the 7th. No activity in the Twins bullpen. You see the pitch count now at 90. Rollins with a single and 2 strikeouts. You ever strike out 4 guys in an inning?
I really don't remember ever doing that.
I believe, and this is from memory, and hey, my memory, a lot of other things aren't what they used to be, but I believe Scott Baker is the last Twin to strike out 4 in an inning. 1-0 to Rollins. 2-0.
This is the guy that Duffy wants. You don't want him to get on and have to pitch to Abreu, who we acknowledge as the White Sox best hitter with bases loaded. Go after Rollins right here.
And a 2-0 when he comes in with a breaking ball and throws it for a strike.
The off-speed breaking ball right there took a lot off. 78 mile an hour. Trevor May up and throwing now. I think had he had a clean inning, he might have been able to go out for the 8th, but pitch count getting close to that 100.
Now 3-1.
And this could be his last guy if Trevor May is ready out there.
Trevor just got to the pitching rubber on the bullpen mound.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be quite ready.
3-1 to Jimmy Rollins. Popped up, backing out of play. Now it's 3-2. The suspense builds with Duffy trying for his 4th strikeout this inning.
Go ahead, tie a record. Has there ever been 5?
Maybe a knuckleballer.
Could be.
It's his first full count all afternoon long. And he'll try to make this his last pitch of the inning, maybe the afternoon. Runners go, and Rollins just got a piece of it. Well, Duffy might not get the win today. He might not get a complete game, but whatever the pitching equivalent of a Purple Heart is, he might get one of those today. And he struck out 4 men in the 7th inning, giving up a run in the process, but the runner who scored struck out earlier in the inning. It's 3-1 Chicago.
LAWRIE, Garcia, Jackson, and Rollins.
Wrigley Field always is, but Cubs with just a tremendous ball club. I mean, their run differential is in triple digits.
Pretty good pitching staff.
Yeah.
Too.
Nate Jones will pitch the 8th inning for the Chicago White Sox, now up by 2 runs.
Yeah, he's going to come in for his 14th appearance. Very good ERA. No walks, 11 punch outs. He's done a very good job. Power type pitcher. He's the guy that drilled Byung Ho Park the other night.
At the top of the Twins order, Nunez, Polanco, and Sano. Ostensibly 4 bench players for the Twins. Santana, Mauer, Suzuki, and Dozier. And of those 4, in reality, I think, although Mauer might pinch hit, only Santana would be the preferred choice. Santana not in the lineup because he's hitless against left-handed pitching and has really struggled as of late. Nunez with 2 hits and a strikeout, trying to get aboard here against a very good Chicago bullpen, starting with Jones. Fastball on the outside corner, 97. The velocity on that pitch.
Very unique delivery from Nate Jones. He just gets the ball and almost like a football quarterback just brings his hand up and lets her rip. Back-to-back 97. That's some gas right there.
Two strikes to Nunez. And Nunez strikes out on 3 pitches, 1 away.
It's like a split finger right there.
Carsoup.com trivia question. The last White Sox pitcher to lead the American League in ERA. I can't think. Wilson Alvarez.
Yeah, I was thinking about that name. I couldn't come up with it. That was my guess, too.
Joel Horland. Wow. Back in 1967. You know why I didn't get that? Here's my excuse for not knowing that answer. I have almost successfully, as a Twins fan growing up, forgotten everything about the 1967 season because of how it ended.
On purpose?
Yes, yes. Thousands of dollars of therapy have gone into it, so I can't be held responsible for remembering what happened in the 1967 season. And in lieu of giving you the correct answer to the trivia question, the official trivia question, we can fill in a blank here for you. Francisco Liriano was the last Twins pitcher to strike out 4 in an inning. He did it in Kansas City in early June of 2012. Thanks to Ethan, our incredible stats guy here in the booth, for researching that for us. 2-1 to Polanco. Twins need a bloop and a blast. A walk would work with Sano on deck.
Twins down to their final 5 outs. They need to do something here. The White Sox have figured out a way to get a couple runs ahead. And now you mentioned, Dick, their bullpen's been part of their strength. They've done a great job, especially late.
And there's a walk. So Polanco's aboard. And Sano, who's 0 for 3, will come up representing the tying run. Wednesday on an all-new The Ultimate Fighter. After another Team Claudia win, Coach Joanna lashes out at her fighters. Will Team Claudia take out one of the competition's strongest fighters? It's all Wednesday at 9 p.m. Central, only on FS1. Looking to you to make sure I pronounced that right. And I realized immediately I was looking in the wrong direction.
That's why they gave that read to you.
Here's Sano, 1-0. And Polanco's drawn his second walk, the only 2 taken by the Twins in the ball game.
What a good time to run into one here.
Up and in, 2-0. Well, you know, this is not what Jones wanted to do here with 1 out and a 2-run lead, walking Polanco to get Sano to the plate as the tying run. And Navarro comes out to talk to Jones. Now here comes Don Cooper with David Robertson starting to warm up in the Chicago bullpen.
Well, you could almost sense that Robin Ventura was going to try to stall for a little time here. He sent Brett LAWRIE to the mound. I'm not sure he's the guy that always goes to talk to the pitchers to settle them down, but he was asked to go out there, and then Don Cooper, the pitching coach, takes a long walk out there, and that's going to give David Robertson a couple extra pitches out there. It might not, more than likely, is not going to be for this at bat, but it could be for Trevor Plouffe, Young Ho Park, due up after Miguel Sano.
Robertson has 1 4-out save. 2-0 to Sano. Strike in the inside corner. Sano doesn't necessarily agree. It straight back 2-2. What we've seen over the last couple of weeks, and we've seen some base hits, and Sano using right field as much as left, but we've seen him miss pitches that we saw him clobber for home runs last year. Jones can get it up to 97, 98. See what Sano gets on 2-2. High fly, center field. Jackson up near the warning track makes the catch. Polanco was backpedaling toward first. No chance to tag. 2 down. We'll leave it up to Trevor Plouffe here in the 8th inning.
Sano gave it a ride, but that's the deepest part of the ballpark, and on the warning track, probably about 390 feet away. Austin Jackson able to corral it.
Plouffe struck out in the first. Got some trainer attention after the strikeout, then singled in the 4th. Hit a fly ball to right in the 6th. Outside, ball 1. And a base hit to left. Polanco to second. Twins with a walk and a single have set up Park for a big at bat with 2 on and 2 out in the 8th.
Well, how about a big bomb here now? Twins go up. Park having a chance here. Plouffe got a fastball up in the zone. He was ready for it. We talked about Nate Jones and his velocity. He's been touching 98 on some of his fastballs, and Trevor just turned that right around with a line drive to left.
Red Sox will let it ride with Jones. Park 0 for 3. A strikeout, a ground ball, and a fly ball. Up around the hands. Ball 1.
For all those young kids that have stepped in the batter's box with a little fear and been hit. Well, the last time Young-Ho Park faced him, he got drilled right in the elbow. It looked like it almost was going to hit him in the face. And now he's got to get right back on the horse, jump right back in the saddle, and face the guy again.
I asked Park after he got hit by a pitch whether he was pitched inside regularly. Pretty good, generous strike call by Pat Hoberg. I asked Park whether he got pitched inside regularly in South Korea. There's a speed pitch over. And he said, and his English is getting better, he says, oh yes, up and in, down and away. Which is the universal
that's how you pitch.
Strategy and how to pitch. Half swing, but he went. And Park strikes out, stranding 2 in the 8th. Twins put together a threat, can't finish it off, and Park on a check swing ends the top of the 8th inning.
Trevor May has been a bright spot for this Twins team lately, and I asked him earlier today what he attributes his recent success to, and he admitted that the transition last year and spring from reliever to starter took longer physically than he expected it to, but lately he says the mental aspect has been there. He admits, last year he still kind of had his mind on wanting to be a starter, but he realized that was detrimental. This year he says he's 100% committed to the bullpen, and that mindset really, really honing in on realizing that this is his role. It's not going to change. He's here to do a job, has really freed him up to go out there and do a job. And obviously it's paid off big time because he's been a bright spot for the team. Guys?
Thank you, Audra. Facing Jose Abreu, whom he drilled in the hip area on Friday night.
We just talked about Nate Jones and Young-Ho Park. Well, this was the second part of that. Trevor May protecting his team and went right after Abreu.
You're going on record now saying that was not a coincidence.
Well, it just happened out that way. I don't know.
Here's what happened on Friday.
But I can tell you that if I was on the mound, it might have slipped out of my hand too.
This is right after Park got drilled in the elbow, and Robin Ventura ended up getting tossed because the two dugouts and their pitching staffs were warned, and May was not ejected. And that was Ventura's contention, that it was clear to him at least that May did it on purpose and should have been ejected. Warnings don't necessarily have to be issued if the umpire feels that the pitcher hit someone on purpose. And Polanco gets the soft line drive, 1-1. And that'll bring up Frazier. Both teams afterwards talked about the theme of team unity, and the White Sox are staying together. Trevor May said, he thought it was important that player in the middle of the, I don't even want to call it a scrum. They just kind of came out and stood close to one another, but Young-Ho Park was in the middle of it all near the first baseline. And he was the player who got hit. Now it's a little bit more challenging for players these days to get out onto the field. You saw the White Sox players. You got to hop over a screen now.
Well, it used to be a part of the game that is kind of disappearing. I think baseball in general would like to keep any contact in this game to a minimum. No slides allowed anymore. You can't go take out the catcher anymore. Heck, you can't even get the shortstop and second baseman anymore. So they certainly don't want pitchers hitting guys anymore.
2 strikes to Frazier. High pop-up near second base. 2 down. May 9th is Scrubs Night at Target Field. A limited number of Scrubs Night theme night ticket packages are available that include a game ticket and Twins Scrub Bottoms. Go to twinsbaseball.com/scrubs to learn more about the Scrubs Night theme night offer. It's a nice promotion. Looking forward to it and all that, but I'm looking forward to the time when I don't have to say the word scrubs and bottoms together for till next year.
Well, the whole time you've been reading those reads, all I can think of is scrubs were the guys that were on the bench.
1-0. Fouled back, 1-1.
Twins pitching, Tyler Duffy in particular, has done a good job with Melky Cabrera today. He struck him out twice. Got him to ground into a 4-3 ground ball, second to first.
And fouled over the on-deck circle, out of play. One and 2. Another chopper foul. May steps off the rubber. Six. Cabrera gets a piece.
Audra talked about how Trevor May has embraced this role in the bullpen. One of the reasons Paul Muller has had a tough time taking him out of this role is because of his increased velocity out there. Trevor May as a starter had a tough time getting over 95, but now he'll throw a lot of his fastballs over 95.
That one missing at 97. I thought you brought up an interesting thought the other day when he came in. You can envision this guy, Trevor May, being a closer for the Twins at some point.
Well, he's got 3 pitches. And I think he's starting to get that mentality of a closer. He comes in there and he's got tremendous focus. He started the year, I think, trying to overthrow a little bit. And I think that's just natural. He wants to go out and make first impression. But now that he's had quite a few opportunities out there, he seems to have that determination and focus that the great closers have. Strike one is the most important pitch a closer can throw.
Lifted to short left, and Rosario comes in. And May has a 1-2-3 8th inning. We'll see if the Twins can mount a comeback in the 9th against David Robertson. Oswaldo Arcia will lead things off.
Actually, he did well.
Three to one. The White Sox in front. Tyler Duffy did pitch well through 7 innings. Trevor May with a clean 8th, and now the Twins have some work to do against a guy who's been very good for the White Sox. Even last year when he said he had an off year, but this year he stepped it up. Twins have beaten him a couple of times in save situations, but not since he's come over to the White Sox.
Well, that's why they went out and got David Robinson from the Yankees as a free agent, and he's been very good. Well, we were just talking about Trevor May, the mentality of a closer. This guy has that mentality. He was the setup man for a long time for Mariano Rivera.
Arcia drives one to deep right center field on the first pitch. Jackson chases and makes the catch on the warning track.
Wow.
Austin Jackson with a great catch to take an extra base hit away from Arcia.
The wind blowing in here a little bit at U.S. Cellular, and that ball did have some hang time, but Austin Jackson just never stopped running. And he ran this one down. We were talking about it this whole series, how the defense is much improved, especially in the outfield, and that was a major league play. That's a highlight reel type play.
Joe Mauer will pinch hit for Darren Mastroianni. Looks like Arcia teed off on the first pitch and got an extra base hit. Here's Mauer taking a strike, and instead it's an out. Brian Dozier's on deck. He'll hit for Juan Centeno. Well, the Twins kind of rough on Robertson a couple years ago at Yankee Stadium. Josh Willingham had a big home run to bust up a save opportunity. And Arcia thought he had a base hit. I thought he had a base hit. Instead, it's an out. Now 1-1 to Mauer. 2-1.
Initially, I thought that ball might be out of here.
Well, maybe on Friday night when it was so warm and the wind blowing out, it might have been. Joe back-to-back hitless games here in Chicago. Now a foul to the screen, 2-2.
Joe came in yesterday's game after Park was hit, and he struck out both plate appearances. First at bat here today.
2-2. Full count with Dozier on deck. Two away.
Breaking ball that's underneath the hands of Joe Mauer. Good late break on that from David Robertson.
And for what's next, brought to you by CenturyLink. Manny Machado and the Orioles will open up a series tomorrow night. Jose Barrios, fresh off his first major league win, will pitch the opener for the Twins. In all of 2015, the Twins were swept in a series of 3 or more games only 5 times. They are 1 out away from already being swept in a 3-game series for the 6th time this year. 1-1. Twins started the year, of course, with a 9-game losing streak, but there have been other streaks as well. A 3-gamer, a 4-gamer. Unless they come back and win this one, it'll be a 5-gamer before the home opener tomorrow night. 2-1. 3-1. Rosario on deck. Full count. Dozier not playing the last few ball games because of a strained right hamstring. Suffered in the series finale in Houston. Foul and out of play. Inside. Dozier draws a walk, and Rosario will have a chance with 2 away. Rosario with a left field single in the 3rd and a run scored. He lined out to right in the 5th and hit a 2-hopper to Abreu at 1st in the 7th.
as much as Eddie has struggled this year to start the season, it's kind of a bright spot. He hit the ball hard. He did get a hit, but he also made a very nice catch in left field. Gives you a little bit of hope that things are maybe turning the corner for Rosario.
Swing and a miss on a breaking ball, and swung over the top. Oh, and 1. High, 1-1. There goes Santana, the pinch runner, popped up near the tarp and out of play. Are down to their last strike again. Santana goes on the outside corner. Tom Hanneman, the Twins have played 9 three-game series so far this year, and incredibly, they have been swept in 6 of them.